Hey, everybody. You are about to hear a brief retelling of the movie Little Boy. Before we get started, hit the like button and subscribe. It may only be a click for you, but it has a significant impact on the channel. After holding his son for the first time, a guy named James learns that the child is very small, but this does not prevent him from being a wonderful father. His kid, Pepper, grows older and considers James to be his best buddy. They spend the most of their time together and like doing the same activities, even if his mother, Emma, believes they play too much. London, James' other son, similarly spends the majority of his time practicing so that the army might recruit him in the war. Unfortunately, London is not accepted into the United States Army, and he is saddened. Meanwhile, Pepper and his father are in a store where James is admiring a pair of boots. When Pepper asks whether they'll buy it, James replies he'll come for it later because he doesn't have the money yet. When they arrive home, they find a frustrated London, who tells what happened to his father. London struggled to eat anything that night and eventually left the table. Pepper learns what happened, and he is terrified since it means James would have to represent his family as a volunteer for the United States Army in the war against Japan. Pepper doesn't seem to like it, and he starts crying because his father is leaving the next day. The next day, James says his goodbyes to his family and advises London not to blame himself for anything. He then gives Pepper a heartfelt embrace, and Pepper can't help but follow his father to the truck that will take him to the army base. James cuddles his son once more before getting into the vehicle and leaving for the war. Days later, Emma takes Pepper to see a doctor named Fox, who is attempting to figure out why she hasn't gotten taller. Pepper inquires as to whether he is a midget, but Fox informs him that only those with dwarfism are referred to as such. Emma then accuses Fox's son, Freddie, of demeaning her kid in such a way. Even while Fox claims he'll talk to his son, Pepper seems to dislike the idea because it will simply lead to Freddie bullying him. As they continue to converse, Fox inquires about James's return date, and when Emma and Pepper suggest he should be back by summer, the doctor is not pleased. Fox is interested in replacing James as Emma's husband since he likes her. After a while, and because it's almost summer, Pepper convinces his brother to give him some money, and then he goes to a store to purchase James his favorite boot as a gift for when he returns. He also purchases 2 tickets to a magic show so that he and his father can enjoy it together. Meanwhile, a U.S. Army officer arrives at James' residence to inform Emma that her husband has been taken hostage by enemy soldiers. He does, however, state he is unsure whether James is still alive or dead. Emma is upset when the man leaves, and she informs London. On his way home, Pepper is tormented by Freddie for telling his father about the name he used to call him. He also tosses around the boots Pepper purchased for James. After some humiliation, Pepper is eventually allowed to leave. He returns home to see Emma and London looking unhappy. When he wonders what happened, Emma tells him the truth and embraces him. Days later, Pepper gets depressed and spends the majority of his time alone. Emma begs London to take him instead of James to the magic show, which is also taking place later that day. London agrees, but when they arrive to the play, he finds it extremely uninteresting, so he leaves. Ben, the magician, enters the stage and announces that he is looking for volunteers for a magic trick. Even though he does not raise his hands, Pepper is summoned to the stage. Ben then states that Pepper will do the magic trick instead of him. Pepper believes it's a bad idea because everyone will mock him, and Freddie jokes about how the small guy will fail to execute the correct trick. However, Ben instructs Pepper to disregard what everyone is saying. After appearing to cast a spell on Pepper, Ben instructs the child to bring a bottle closer to him from the far end of a table. Even though Pepper doubts his abilities, Ben supports him, and after a while, he completes the task, surprising everyone. The next day, while at church with Emma and London, Pepper overhears a priest named Crispin discussing what people may do to support their loved ones who are serving in the war. He claims that if people had as little faith as a mustard seed, they will be able to move mountains. He goes on to say that if they can move a mountain, they may be able to assist in the war. Pepper takes this seriously and heads to the store to get a mustard seed. On his way out, he runs into a Japanese man named Hashimoto. He then proceeds to inform London and a man named Sam that there is a Japanese man at the nearby store. They then go over there and prevent the store owner from selling anything to him since they consider him an enemy whose country is now at war with theirs. However, Father Oliver, the town's priest, arrives and informs them that Hashimoto is with them and that they should pack whatever they purchased. Later that day, Sam informs London and Pepper that he hates the Japanese since they killed his son during the war. Pepper, who seems quite depressed, says he wants he could beat up every Japanese person he sees. That night, London takes Pepper to Hashimoto's house, where they throw stones at the door until a glass breaks. Unfortunately, London is imprisoned as a result of this, whereas Pepper is merely allowed to visit a church to seek forgiveness. When Pepper has finished what he came for, he goes to see Crispin and Oliver to tell them he is done. He then questions Crispin about what he said the other day about the potential to move a mountain with a mustard seed. He shows Crispin that he now has a mustard seed, but the priest says it doesn't work that way. Pepper asks if he needs Ben's power to lift the mountain, but Crispin responds he was only talking about faith. Despite the explanation, Pepper does not appear to understand Crispin's words, so Oliver says he will handle it. Just then, Oliver tells Pepper to demonstrate the strength he mentioned by pushing a bottle on the table. Pepper is unable to accomplish it, so Oliver moves the bottle for him. Oliver then explains how faith works, stating that even though Pepper did not utilize any power, the bottle moved. He goes on to say that anything is possible if God's will is followed. As Pepper continues to inquire about faith, Oliver pulls out a list and instructs the young kid to accomplish some actions to help him develop his faith. Oliver adds one last item to the list, which Pepper dislikes because the priest wants him to be friends with Hashimoto. However, he offers to do it in exchange for his father's return. When Oliver mentions that James will return if it is God's will, Pepper responds that since nothing is impossible, he will attempt to finish the list so that his father can return soon. To begin the list, Pepper goes to Hashimoto's residence to apologize for what happened the other day. However, Hashimoto does not appear really interested. Pepper informs Oliver of this, and the priest proposes that he offer Hashimoto a present. The next day, Pepper buys a bottle of Pepsi and delivers it to Hashimoto, who promptly discards it. He tells Oliver about it again, and the priest advises him to try hanging out with Hashimoto. He then visits Hashimoto's residence, and after discovering that Oliver had phoned Hashimoto, he decides to spend out with Pepper. They eventually enter a store to purchase ice cream, but the owner only sells to Pepper. When they walk outside, however, Hashimoto takes it from Pepper, claiming it had been a long time since he had ice cream. Pepper then asks if he can cross Hashimoto off his list, which surprises the guy to learn that Oliver provided the list to the young kid as a way to bring his father back. While they are hanging out, Hashimoto informs Oliver that giving Pepper the list is a bad idea, but the priest insists that if it is God's will, James will return. Hashimoto then expresses his hope that Oliver's scheme does not screw with Pepper's psyche. The next day, Oliver needs to leave town quickly, but Pepper joins him before he does. Despite Pepper's claim that he has crossed Hashimoto off the list, Oliver advises him to remain friends with the man until there is no more hatred in his eyes. He also claims he'll continue to assist Pepper with the list after he returns from his trip. Pepper then rushes to London to inform him that he is working on bringing James back. However, when London sees the list, she decides that being friends with Hashimoto is a poor idea. As Pepper walks away, Freddy attempts to bully him, but Hashimoto is nearby and assists him in leaving the area. Pepper soon returns home, only to find Emma crying, prompting him to visit Hashimoto's house the following day. He asks Hashimoto to help him with the list, and the man accepts. He then helps Pepper do a few tasks like visiting a sick person, providing refuge for a homeless person, and purchasing baby items. The next day, Fox brings Freddy over to Emma's house to express his compassion for what he has heard about James. After saying what he has to say, he convinces Emma to invite him to dinner over Pepper's objections. Fox also gets London released, and he praises the doctor for his assistance. However, Fox claims he did it for Emma. Freddy then requests to be excused and leaves the table to go to Pepper's room. Pepper notices him and instantly attempts to confront him, but Freddy takes his list and threatens to beat him up if he does anything funny. Later that day, Pepper informs Hashimoto about this. Hashimoto tells him to go get his list back, but Pepper claims he is too small to fight Freddy. However, Hashimoto tells him a story of how a tiny soldier defeated a powerful samurai. With this, Pepper gathers the resolve to confront Freddy, who becomes enraged and tears up the list. After he also pushes Pepper to the ground, Pepper becomes enraged and exacts his retribution, shocking everyone. The next day, Pepper looks at the items remaining on his list, and Emma advises him to bring a friend home for lunch so he may check off the chore of feeding the hungry. Pepper invites Hashimoto to the house, but Emma is perplexed. However, Pepper claims that Hashimoto is a buddy. Emma then welcomes him in, and the three of them discuss Hashimoto's family while eating. London returns home unexpectedly and is taken aback by Hashimoto's presence. He instantly runs to fetch a gun and threatens to kill Hashimoto, but Emma stops him and allows the man to leave the house. Pepper follows Hashimoto out of the home, but London and Sam quickly return to taunt him. Pepper tries to stop London, but his brother says he must quit hanging out with Hashimoto if he truly wants to bring their father back. London also implies that the list is impossible to implement, but Pepper claims that his faith allows him to achieve a variety of things, including moving mountains. London then shows his brother a neighboring mountain and instructs him to move it. Hashimoto advises Pepper not to do anything because London is only trying to disgrace him, but the young kid insists on doing it. As he tries to move the mountain like he did with the bottle during Ben's concert, an earthquake strikes the town, and everyone is frightened because they believe Pepper caused it. Oliver also returns and learns about this. Meanwhile, Pepper receives a letter from the White House stating that all soldiers would only return home after the war is over. He goes to meet Hashimoto to ask where Japan is, and when Pepper learns that it's merely in the direction of the sun, he declares he wants to attempt to help end the war. Hashimoto chooses to be honest with him, explaining that performing the tasks on the list may not bring James back. Pepper wonders whether this means he should stop, but Hashimoto says he needs to do things that make sense. This, however, does not deter Pepper from attempting to direct the power he believes he possesses toward the sun in order to bring the battle to an end. Everyone in town notices him as he tries it every day till he becomes fatigued. Days later, while riding his bike, Pepper is stopped by a group of individuals who inform him that whatever he did worked because the U.S. Army had dropped a bomb that wiped out a portion of Japan, putting them in charge of the war, which may soon be over. He appears pleased to hear this, but when he returns home, Emma warns that it may be bad news for American prisoners because the Japanese may kill them. Later that night, London and Sam go to Hashimoto's house to beat him up in retaliation for what happened to Sam's son and all those who killed during the war. Sam flees the house after severely injuring Hashimoto and causing him to die. However, London feels terrible for Hashimoto and chooses to take him to the hospital, despite the fact that doing so will result in his imprisonment for assault. Pepper and Emma visit the hospital to meet Hashimoto, but Oliver informs them that his friend's health is only worsening. Pepper then checks his list and discovers that he has a task to complete: bury the dead. This horrified him, and when he sees Hashimoto still comatose, Pepper realizes he may have to bury either his father or his new buddy. A few days later, an officer from the United States Army visits Emma at her home. He claims that news from Japan indicate that James has died. This breaks her heart, and London is equally crushed by the news. Pepper also cries a lot, and Emma tries to console him during James' memorial service. The next day, Hashimoto looks to have recovered, and he meets Pepper while the young kid is alone. Pepper says he can't believe he thought he could use the list to bring his father back, but Hashimoto believes it just shows how much he loved James. Hashimoto further claims that the list demonstrates his willingness to do whatever is necessary to get James back. Pepper goes to James' tombstone and drops the list there. The next day, Emma brings Pepper to visit Fox about his incapacity to grow taller. Fox claims to have some theories regarding what's going on with Pepper and offers to come over to their place later to discuss them. Emma, on the other hand, assures him that, despite his outstanding qualities, she will never consider marrying anyone else after James. Fox does not seem pleased to hear this, but he handles it well. Days later, Emma receives a visitor from the United States Army who informs her that James is still alive. It turns out that, despite being shot after the U.S. Army raided the town where he was being kept hostage, someone took his footwear. After the individual was killed, the tag on the boots was discovered to be for James, which is why they believed he was the one who died. Emma seems relieved, and London proceeds to inform Pepper that his list worked. As they prepare to leave for the hospital where James is being treated after all the trauma he had during the war, Pepper notices that London assisted him in obtaining new boots for their father. He praises his brother for this, and after a while, they arrive at the hospital. When they finally meet again, James is overjoyed to see Pepper, and they cuddle before Emma and London join them. After a while, James recovers and comes home to his family.